History is written by the victors, they say. And for most of it, the victors were men. Their names fill the pages: Caesar, Alexander, Napoleon. But deep in the heart of Africa, along the banks of the Nile, there was a kingdom where the rules were different. For over 1,000 years, the word for ruler was feminine. They called her Kandake, the Great Woman. The Greeks and Romans who first encountered these warrior queens couldn't process what they saw. They thought Candace was the woman's personal name. They were wrong. It was a title passed down for centuries, like Pharaoh or Caesar. And it belonged to women who led armies, built temples, and faced down the most powerful empire the world had ever seen without flinching. The most famous of them all was a woman whose name history nearly erased: Amanirenas. She ruled Kush in the 1st century BC. The Romans had just swallowed Egypt and were eyeing her kingdom's gold. When a Roman official demanded taxes so brutal they would have crushed her people, Amanirenas didn't send a diplomat. She sent an army, 30,000 soldiers, marching north. Amanirenas was not just a queen, she was a commander. She rode at the head of her army into battle, and she did it with one eye. In a skirmish, she lost her eye and her son. But she did not stop. She understood something the Romans never could, that this land was not just dirt and gold. It was her ancestors. It was her gods. It was her. Amanirenas wasn't just fighting for land. She was fighting for something the Romans couldn't understand: a line of queens stretching back centuries. Before her, there was Queen Shanakdakhete. In the 2nd century BC, she built temples and ruled without a king. Her face, carved in stone, is the oldest known image of a Kandake: full-lipped, crowned, and absolutely in charge. So when the Romans demanded submission, Amanirenas knew what she carried on her shoulders: not just a crown, not just a kingdom, but the legacy of every woman who had ruled before her. The memory of queens who built pyramids, who spoke to gods, who led armies. She would not be the one to let them down. The Romans had no idea who they were dealing with. By 25 BC, Rome was unstoppable. They had conquered Egypt, seized its grain, and now they looked south. A Roman official named Petronius demanded the Kushites pay taxes so high it would have stripped their kingdom bare. It was a test. Would they bow? Amanirenas answered not with gold, but with 30,000 soldiers. The queen was going to war. The Kushites swept through Ramang, Egypt, like a sandstorm. They captured 3 cities, including Aswan. Roman garrisons fell, but they didn't just defeat them, they humiliated them. In the Temple of Philae, they pulled down every statue of the Emperor Augustus. They smashed some, but one they kept: a beautiful bronze head of the man who thought he ruled the world. But Rome could not ignore such an insult. Petronius gathered 10,000 legionaries and marched south. He pushed deep into Kush, sacked the ancient city of Napata, and took thousands of prisoners. In the chaos of battle, Amanirenas lost something irreplaceable: her eye and her son. The Romans thought they had won. They were wrong. Amanirenas retreated, but she did not surrender. From the ashes of Napata, she gathered what was left of her forces and struck again. She attacked Roman garrisons, cut supply lines, turned the desert into a nightmare for the invaders. Petronius realized this was not a war he could win. The queen refused to die, refused to kneel. He called for peace. Amanirenas sent her ambassadors to meet the emperor himself, Augustus, not in Rome, but on the Greek island of Samos. The Kushites did not beg. They demanded respect. They asked for fair borders. They asked for an end to tribute. And shockingly, Augustus agreed. The most powerful man in the world made peace with a one-eyed queen who had cost him thousands of soldiers. The bronze head of Augustus never returned to Rome. The Kushites buried it under the steps of a temple dedicated to their own gods. For centuries, anyone who entered that temple walked on the face of the Roman emperor. A final, silent insult. A reminder that some people refuse to be erased. And somewhere, deep underground, that head still waits. Amanirenas was not the first. She was part of a line of warrior queens stretching back centuries. Her ancestor, Queen Shanakdakhete, ruled in the 2nd century BC. She built temples, led armies, and left her image carved in stone, the oldest known portrait of a Kandake. No king beside her, no husband above her. Just a queen, alone, and entirely in command. After Amanirenas came Queen Amanishakheto. She ruled in the 1st century AD, and her power was so great that her pyramid was larger than any king's. When her tomb was discovered in 1834, a treasure hunter named Giuseppe Follini blew it open with dynamite. He found golden jewelry so magnificent that today it still sits in museums in Berlin and Munich, stolen but undeniably Kushite. Then there was Queen Amanitore. Her name means beautiful is the mother of the king. But she was more than a mother. She ruled alongside her son, but her image is carved on temple walls as large as his. In the temple of Naka, she is shown slaying enemies with a sword, not a symbol, not a metaphor, her, killing with her own hands. But the Kandakes didn't just fight, they built. In a land of scorching heat and shifting sands, water was life. Amanitore restored the great reservoir at Naka, a vast pool that could hold millions of liters. It turned desert into farmland. Her people didn't just survive because of her sword. They survived because she understood that a queen's greatest weapon is water. The Kandakes also built temples to gods no one else worshipped. Padmak, the lion-headed warrior god. His temples were carved with images of queens holding prisoners by the hair, standing victorious over their enemies. These were not gentle goddesses. These were women who worshipped a god of war. And he, in turn, blessed them with his ferocity. For over 1,000 years, the Kandakes ruled. They built pyramids, fought empires, turned desert into garden. They were queens, generals, builders, and warriors. And then, around 350 AD, their kingdom fell. Invaders from the south, a changing climate, a fading faith. But the Kandakes did not vanish. They did not die. They became memory. And memory, once carved in stone, is hard to erase. What we call the Kingdom of Kush, with its pyramids and warrior queens, is ancient history. But for millions of modern Nubians, scattered between Egypt and Sudan, and across the globe, it is not just history. It is their past. Their ancestors built Nauru. Their grandmothers' grandmothers might have walked these same streets. This is not archaeology. This is identity. In 2019, during the Sudanese Revolution, protesters didn't just chant political slogans. They painted images of the Kandakes on the walls of Khartoum. They saw themselves in these ancient warrior women, strong, defiant, unbroken. They sang songs about their ancestors, the Black Pharaohs and their queens. The past became a weapon for freedom in the present. Today, artists like Amadou Al-Fadni are reclaiming this history. His paintings show the Kandakes not as museum pieces, but as living spirits, their silhouettes merging with the landscape of modern Sudan. He paints them with the same gold and blue that once decorated their temples. Because for him, for many, the Kandakes never left. They are still here. The story of the Kandakes challenges everything we think we know about power. It wasn't a brief exception. It was a tradition that lasted over 1,000 years. These women didn't just fight, they ruled. They didn't just rule, they built. And they didn't just build, they survived. In a world that wanted them silent, they roared loud enough for history to still hear them. The Lion Temple at Naka still stands. The wind still sweeps across the desert, whispering through ancient stones. Carved in sandstone, a queen holds a sword. She wears a crown. Her chin is raised in triumph. Look at her, and for a moment, the centuries disappear. She is not just a relic. She is a reminder. Power has many faces. Some of them are beautiful. Some of them are fierce. Hers was both. The Kandakes ruled for over 1,000 years. Rome feared them. History almost forgot them. But the sand remembers. The question is, what will we choose to remember?